Hello and welcome to episode 299 of the Awesome Comics Podcast. Amazing. The place where small press makes one hell of a big noise. No, you are not tripping. You have not taken LSD. I am not Vince. Vince isn't here. Vince is moving house, believe it or not.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's moving the whole of ACP Towers to the new location.
Yeah. So he is not with us this week. He's going to be back next week for episode 300, so we can't wait for that. Instead, you're stuck with just the two of us, and we've got an interview coming up in a minute. My name's Tony Esmond, creator of comics, and also someone whose hips don't lie. With me, as always, is the Dickie Davis of comics. It's Vanguard's own Daniel Guns Butcher. Hello, Daniel.
Hello. How are you?
Why did the Dickie Davis thing start? Was it because you said you had white
Because
hair?
I said I'm getting like a flash of grey, white in my hair at the front,
right.
just off centre, and suddenly I'm getting pictures of Dickie Davis. And Vince saying, "Yeah, it does look like him." So what are you fucking smoking?
He's just sent us a good luck, boys, isn't he? We just had a little message off him. Yeah, because he's moving house and he's just been painting a wall because he's keeps flexing what a macho man he is doing DIY.
Yeah, he said he's got very soft hands, which I can't verify that.
No, me
That's
neither.
just-
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you know otherwise, write in. Let us know.
Yeah. And we have got a guest coming up.
Yes.
We're going to be doing an interview in a minute with a UK. Well, he's not UK, is he? I suppose he's a UK guy in another country. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, that's a fair shout. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to have an interview for you in a minute. You know where else you can get soft hands?
Comic House.
Comic House. Yes.
That's slick.
Thank you. You know where is a great place to find comics at really reasonable prices? Yes, it's Comic House, the Netflix for small press. Vince said he'd send me the script. He never did, so I've had to make this up.
It's good.
It's the UK. I'm doing it from memory. The UK indie comics marketplace that takes comics from all over the world and sticks them onto an app that you can look at them on. What's in there at the moment, D-Man?
Well, what we've got on the app, we've got And It Snowed, which looks absolutely awesome. Snake Claws Book 4.
Good.
Riders of the Apocalypse Volume 1.
He sent me a message today saying he's sending me my Snake Claws through the post.
Ah, legend. Nice one. We've got Little Sally Issue 1 and 2 and Hollow Girl Volume 2.
Oh, there you go.
So, yeah.
Bit of foreshadowing.
We're talking about that momentarily.
Is it just volumes 1 and 2 of that, is there?
No, I think there's more. It might be up to issue 4 on there.
Oh, okay.
So there's a whole plethora of Hollow Girl to get your mitts on.
Nice. Good stuff. You can list your book for a very, very small minimal fee and get into a whole new audience. Even I can do it, if I manage to do it. To be fair, that's a lie. I wrote that down. I didn't manage to do it. I had to ring Pete. And Pete talked me through it both times I did it.
But that said, Pete is really helpful. There's a couple times where I've effed it up and I've messaged Pete and he's had it sorted within like half an hour. Yeah. But literally, if you can upload a PDF onto a site, you can put your book on Comic House. It's very simple.
That is true. And I like the way that you said effed it up because you're being polite because it's just me and you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can drop all the F and C bombs. Maybe I can I'll try and go for the entire show without swearing.
Yeah, it would be like super polite. Just be like changed men now that we're not being egged on by Vince.
Riled up by Vince.
Yeah.
When Vince is off air, he's just effing and jeffing all the time.
Oh my God, he's a beast. He the thing is, it's because it's for those look behind the curtain. It's actually Tuesday. We're recording early, aren't we?
Yeah.
Because we want to get it to Vince to edit it to get it out while he's painting walls and stuff and building houses and sheds. He's got a lovely shed on the way, hasn't he?
I did. Yeah, he did send us that picture of the back garden. I mean, a shed. You get two types of shed users: people who kind of do stuff in the shed, or people just throw all their stuff in there.
Yeah, or perverts. A lot of perverts have sheds, aren't they?
Yeah.
Have you got a shed? Are you a pervert? Please write in.
Well, the demographic of this show is definitely one of those boxes is ticked.
Yeah. I actually don't own a shed. I fancy getting one. Occasionally I sort of pine for a shed and think I could sit in the shed in the summer, on an allotment or something, reading comics and pretending to dig holes in the ground. That sort of thing.
My brother's got one of those he's got quite a big garden. He had one of those sort of like, I don't know what they call them, like the big sheds where you can go inside and it's like an activity room, like a kind of granny annex kind of thing at the bottom of the garden where married men go down and sort of lose their wives in the house or whatever. But he's like built a pub down there.
Oh, right.
Can't use it at the moment because no one can go round.
It's a little bit South London, isn't it?
Yeah. All these mates have like done the same thing.
Oh, we'll go down the pub. That's the sort of place they can have a secret rave.
Yeah, oh god, yeah, it's big enough. They can. He did say the other day he left the heater on in there, and he went in there and it was like a sauna. So that cost him.
Good. How's your week been? Otherwise, have you been all right? You busy?
Yeah, busy. Making comics as always, reading comics. I've got one to talk about tonight, which I'm not going to recommend, but I'm going to talk about it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, controversial.
Yeah, I know we do a kind of a recommend section, but this one, I don't know, I'm just gonna talk about it. One of the ones I picked out. I saw the cover for it. I've seen it a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, that looks interesting. And I dived in on it over the weekend, and I was like, well, okay, I've got some thoughts about this.
Ooh.
So that's coming up later in the show.
Exciting.
Stay tuned.
Johnny Cannon keeps ringing me. I'd like to point that out. He's now rung me twice. I think he's left a message because my phone's ringing again now. Yeah, don't know what he wants.
He's been messaging me about his workout regime on Twitter. He said he loved my love handles, and I said something like, "Thanks, babes."
Oh, nice. That's good. I've been all right. I've been all right. Thanks for asking. No, everything's fine with me.
Yeah, T, how have you been?
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, busy at work but reading quite a lot of comics. Yeah,
excellent.
Breaking my way through DN Agents again. Reading that, I like that. Do you remember that from Eclipse?
Read that one. Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, I forgot that they made a sort of subtle appearance in Teen Titans. So that's pretty cool. So I did the usual. Can't be bothered to dig through 34 long boxes where I think it might be, and just bought them off eBay. But there you go.
Hey, yeah, nice one.
Yeah, one day.
There's so many comics where I couldn't be bothered to find it, and I've just rebought it.
Yeah,
it's happened so often to me. I imagine it's worse for you because you've got way more comics than long boxes than me.
I've got a room that's got so many long boxes in there I can't get into it.
We're in a when this comes out, we will be in a post Zack Snyder's Justice League world, won't we?
There's a good show with Pete last week, and I'm glad that Pete's going to watch it. I'm going to watch it too. Are you going to watch it?
It's fucking long, isn't it? How long is it?
Well, according to Rob Liefeld, it's 4 hours, but it goes by in a zip. Yeah. Can you hear that?
I don't know.
That's Johnny calling me again. Look, that's him calling me. I'm going to press no on that one.
Denied. Nope.
Yeah, denied.
Yeah, I don't know. I might do. It might be one of those things I don't go through in one hit, to be honest.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah, I made the mistake. I told you earlier, I made the mistake of watching. I had a bout of lockdown insomnia last night and got up and watched the Woody Allen and Mia Farrow documentary. Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh, no.
That helped with the sleepless nights.
Yeah, yeah. I just stayed up, watched it. Yeah.
It's always the way. Like if I have heroes or someone I kind of admire, look up to, I try not to look into their life too much because I get disappointed.
Yeah, I don't tend to follow them afterwards. I'm so glad that nothing happened to Rolf. Do you know what I mean? He was a big hero of mine. Rolf Harris.
Rob's Cartoon Club. I used to fucking love that show, but there we go.
Yeah, and Gary Glitter.
All your heroes.
Yeah.
They come up. I was watching a bit of Only Fools and Horses. This for a bit of background noise, and there was one where a séance. Do you remember that episode?
I don't think so.
And the lady, the medium, saying, "Oh, there's someone else stepping out the mists. They've got long blonde hair down to their shoulders. Their rings are decked in like jewels and gold." And Trigger says, "Oh, sounds like Jimmy Savile." Burst out laughing. Rosie Dale says, "No, that's my mum."
Oh, well, you know.
There's a lot of those. They make a lot of jokes and references in the older TV shows to figures which are now.
Yeah.
I don't know how you describe.
I think in prison they'd be referred to as nonces, I believe is the phrase. Yeah.
To be fair, the British people do that with everything, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Yeah, you keep chocolate in the fridge, you're a nonce.
Read comics on the tube. Oh, sex offender. Yeah.
You have like a lager top. So, you fucking nonce. I swore. That's it.
It's done. I can attest to this. That a friend of mine, and this is not a nice term at all. It was horrible. But I did go in a pub in Middlesbrough with someone once, and he asked for a lager top, and he said that the barman immediately just went, "What are you, a puff?" I was like, "Oh my god!" It's like travelling back to the '60s. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And then we got a kicking.
Oh,
Good.
There you go, kicking.
Should we call our guest in?
Yes.
Should we do that?
Now we welcome to the show the creator of Hollow Girl, the Rapture-inspired Alone Not Lonely, lover of the heroic bloodshed genre, and all-round talented comic creator, Luke Cooper. Hello, Luke.
Hey, Luke.
Hello. Hiya.
Good stuff, man.
Am I right saying you do like heroic bloodshed films?
Yes, yeah, definitely got a soft spot for the old John Woo movies.
Oh, nice one.
Now, I think I reviewed a book of yours, Good Cop, Bad Cop, about... God, it's got to be about 6 or 7 years ago now. Is that right?
Yeah, written by Jim Alexander. I did one of the story arcs.
Right.
He kind of wanted to do a Judge Dredd sort of thing so that every artist who came on had their own interpretation of the character. And my one was more psychological. It's kind of a Jekyll and Hyde sort of thing.
That's right.
So Good Cop, Bad Cop was one person, but he kind of morphed into this evil version of himself. But my version was more like the change was psychological rather than physical.
Get you. Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. Okay.
That's interesting. Yeah, well, I've been reading through Hollow Girl once again, and it kind of invokes that kind of the kind of the dark Avenger character, like the Crow, or not so much the Punisher, but someone who kind of like fights fire with fire, as it were, and kind of. It's very dark. It's a dark character and dark themes. How did he kind of come about with the character and the concept?
Well, The Crow was definitely an influence, although I'm ashamed to say I actually saw the movie first. I didn't actually get to the comic till a lot later.
Same.
But I've been a fan of The Punisher and Judge Dredd and all these sort of dark, violent characters. But Hollow Girl, I don't know, it was a very strange way it came about, really, because I just wanted to do a girl with guns action story. But I wanted it to not be like typical sort of exploitation sort of stuff. It wasn't about sexualizing the character. I thought the best way to do that was to take away the face, to give her that mask, to dehumanize her. And then it's not just about a pretty face. It's about a sort of menacing, scary character that kind of became it was almost like a role reversal version of Halloween, with instead of like a horrible masked bad guy hunting and killing teenage girls, it was teenage girl with mask hunting and killing big scary bad guys.
That sort of plays into the kind of the elevator pitch of the comic when she takes on the kind of not the identities as much, but these ghosts that kind of drive her to right certain wrongs. That's right, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. It's like I've sort of tried to reevaluate the character as I've gone on, and I think the easiest way to describe it as a medium with guns, a medium who is also a vigilante.
Right, so that's that supernatural element you've put into it, yeah. But I think that sort of blank face mask thing is frightening. From a kid who grew up and watched something like The Autons on television,
yeah,
I think it's a similar sort of feeling. Is that's that plastic fakeness to it is almost more sinister, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think when it's it's a kind of a blank face, like even just when they've done the sack over someone's head with an eye showing out, it's a lot more intimidating and kind of scary than like a monstrous looking face, because that's just kind of like, oh yeah, whatever it is, it's because the intentions are hidden. There's more of a kind of an edge or an element to it like that.
Especially if you take away the eyes as well. Like if you watch the Halloween movies, the ones that are the scariest are the ones where they actually just completely hide the eyes behind the mask in shadow.
Right.
So that really adds to the dehumanizing element. And when I was first like doing cover art for the comic, I remember the first image I did of her, it was you could see the eyes through the mask. I was like, oh, that's wrong. That just doesn't look right. So when I put all black underneath it, there she is.
Oh, you got it. Yeah. I love drawing masks with no eyes on them because eyes are so tricky to do.
You got to put them deeper into the mask as well, haven't you? Sometimes it's tricky. Yeah. The other theme I found, I don't know if this is right, Luke, is there an element of mental illness? Is she? I mean, you can almost read it as she's mentally ill and she's imagining it all, isn't there? There's this sort of scary, and I think you use nightmares a lot in your work, don't you?
Yeah, the stuff like where reality and fantasy blend. I definitely like living in that area. And yeah, you're quite right that the early Hollow Girl books, it was supposed to be ambiguous. Like,
Right.
is she really seeing this stuff, or is this all going on in her head? And in fact, in the first book, that's sort of symbolized by a tug of war between a priest and a psychiatrist.
Right.
What the priest is sort of seeing her as being like this vessel for spirits, and the psychiatrist saying, no, this is just a disturbed girl. Something bad happened to her when she was a kid. She needs help.
And she's empty, isn't she? Like you say, she's hollow. She's empty of everything. It's almost like a PTSD thing, is it? Do you think?
Doesn't the priest say something like she hasn't got a soul or something? And
it's does she not have a soul, or does she not have a conscience? And what's the difference? The soul thing is something I've tried to sort of gloss over as the series has gone on, because it's quite hard to write a series about a character who doesn't really have much in the way of emotions. So as the series goes on, it becomes clearer that there is someone there. And as Tony said, it's kind of a PTSD sort of element, that something happened to her when she was young. And I describe it as one day she went away and she didn't come back. And what's left is this kind of empty vessel.
Where she's kind of locked her personality up because she's been hurt or injured in some way.
Yeah, and
that's a real
signifier of PTSD, isn't it? They find it hard. People who have it in extreme measures find it hard to show or feel emotion, to enjoy things. It's like people who come back from the war. It's shell shock, isn't it? They're nothing.
Yeah,
and it's an interesting.
I mean, how's that even treated? I'm really ignorant on the subject.
I don't know, actually, man. No, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah. The now the history of it. You've gone through a few publishers with this, haven't you, Luke? So you went through. You were signed with a couple of American publishers, and did you do a bit of self-publishing yourself? Did you, or?
I briefly tried it, but I would much rather work for a publisher, because I just want to be able to draw the thing and send it off, and let someone else worry about selling it. Because I'm the kind of person, I like to fire and forget. I've done the comic, it's gone. Now, what's the next thing I'm going to do? So I'm always working.
That's how I met my wife.
All the time.
There's a quote. There's a quote on your Facebook page, dude, that says, "Is it weird that I have plenty of motivation to write and draw, but zero motivation to engage on social media or to promote?" And I thought, yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, we often hear people say it's 50% of the effort, isn't it? Is the promotion these days? It shouldn't be, though, should it? Really?
No.
Well, they make it so hard with the algorithms and things, so it's very hard to actually promote your works. You try to put things in groups on Facebook, and I don't know, it just sort of disappears.
Yeah,
you might get a couple of likes, but it just sort of
there's a lot of noise out there, man. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and you found yourself with Marcosia, is that right?
It was a case of, okay, I just want people to find these books, and the last publisher I had couldn't even offer that simple thing. Just the idea that there's a shop, you can find the books and you can buy them. It was all Kickstarter. And then after the Kickstarter, it was like, right, so where can people find the books? Oh, no, if they didn't back the Kickstarter, then,
Yeah, it's gone forever, isn't it? Yeah, that's the thing. I think, because I know Harry quite well, and I'm a friend of Harry's, and he does a sort of print-on-demand model. He does get the comics in front of, other media to be adapted, if possible. Yeah, there is that element to it. None of us are going to be millionaires these days, I think, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
I'm very happy with that stuff. Yeah, I'm very, and having a home on Marcosia, it gives me a place to direct people, and you can see they got links with like Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Book Depository, all these different places. I think is it Forbes as well, something like that. They've got all these different places where you can order the books, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, and I think
half the battle is just getting it into people's hands, isn't it? The comics nowadays,
making it available. We listened to a YouTube channel by a guy called Perch, Luke, and he did a whole episode the other day about nothing's in print anymore. You try and get a book, and it's out of print, and Even stuff that, the WandaVision stuff is out of print. You can't get it. So that print-on-demand model, I think, is going to start coming more and more. I know Pat uses it for Space Warp. It's an important way of doing it these days, I think.
It makes me wonder if they just, this bit conspiracy theory, just moving everything digital, because then everything can be tracked and every sale they can have a piece of.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I still, as many listeners of Echo, want physical copies of stuff. If I like something digital, I want to buy the physical, and that's the end of.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing we're going to talk about, dude, is your craft as well. Now, I understand from a couple of interviews I've seen, an interview I've seen you done from looking at your artwork, is you use models, don't you? Do you have a friend who is essentially Hollow Girl? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, that was a few years ago now.
Right.
So I'm kind of relying on databases of images.
Right.
I've got.
That's interesting. It's what would you like plot out, like storyboard the page, like thumbnails, and then say, right, I need you in this pose, that pose, or how would you work? How would you work a page, for instance?
Well, I just go from the script, and then I kind of arrange the pose, and then take photos from like lots of different angles, as many different angles as I can, so that when I'm laying out the page, because it's photographs, I don't really do thumbnails. I just sort of lay the photographs on the page and start moving it around and creating collages. And so I just give myself lots of options by taking lots of different photos. And I can always reuse stuff for other things as well. If I've got like that big database of images, it comes very handy.
Fun. Okay. I kind of do similar stuff with I thumbnail my stuff, then draw it as separate elements, and then I can move it around on the page to the way I like. And sometimes it doesn't look like the thumbnail. But I guess there's so many different ways of working nowadays. There's not just you pencil it all on the page, you ink it all on the page, and away it goes.
Well, I used to work in that more traditional style. Before I actually was doing this kind of more realistic horror stuff, the early days I was with Portent Comics, James Reddington's comic company,
right,
back in the day, and I was doing like cartoony stuff, and that was all just regular hand-drawn.
Gotcha.
But I kind of went back to university and started doing some multimedia stuff, and I thought, I could apply this to comics. So I was working with my friend who was a photographer, and we started like doing comic stuff together, and then I sort of ditched a friend and did the photography myself because it looked like a lot of fun. Because you pretend to be a director. It's great. And especially because I work mainly with girls.
Here we go.
No, not a creep. But the joy that when you give them a toy gun to pose with, for a guy that's normal, but for a girl it's like, yes, my parents never let me play with guns when I was little. So there was one girl I remember for a comic. I gave her like a couple of toy guns, and then she just started running around doing her own thing. Okay, I'll just take pictures then. I didn't have to actually direct her at all. But she was just overjoyed at the idea of, yes, I get to play with toy guns. It's awesome.
So kind of like comic book kind of creators that you kind of look up to or aspire to. Do you have some of those? Ones that you kind of grew up on?
Well, oh man, this is such a cliche, I think. Because I'm that right age group to say Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon were the creative team that I just was chasing down all the time.
Okay. So what, a bit of Hellblazer moving into a bit of Preacher or something like that, was it? Or
I would still count Preacher as one of my favourite comics of all time.
Quite right, so. Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it?
Is that TV series still going?
I don't know, actually. To be fair, I found it a bit dull.
No, they did like 3 or 4 seasons, I think. It was okay. It didn't quite capture the spirit of the comic, but The Saint of Killers was pretty good, I think.
Right, okay. Right.
And Cassidy was good. I think the rest was not the best of adaptations, but those 2 characters were pretty good.
Yeah, I felt like the lead character, you had to believe he could kick your ass, and I didn't believe it.
Yeah, same.
No, it wasn't Jesse for me.
Exactly.
It didn't work.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Any other artistic influences? So as opposed to storytelling, any artistic ones?
Well, because I liked Hellblazer, a guy who came along later with, and I don't know if I pronounce his names right because they're ones I've seen written down,
Yeah.
but I've not heard them. But Brian Azzarello used a guy called Marcelo Fruzin, I think it was Fruzin, something like that, and I love his stuff. I love that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And Loveless as well. I think they did.
Oh, that's a bleak fucking western. That is, man. Oh my
I've
god!
not seen that one.
Yeah, it's that's a rough one. It's quite rapey at certain points.
Oh man.
yeah. It's like the old school 70s westerns. You know, it's like this. That it's just yeah. Everyone's a villain. Yeah, it's like Deadwood or something like that.
They had that shit in like Clint Eastwood films.
Yeah,
kind of that theme. That kind of stuff doesn't get touched with a fucking barge pole today. You can understand why.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I want to ask you a little bit about Figments as well. I read today.
The forgotten book, the forgotten one. Yeah.
So Chloe Addison is trapped in an underpass with a cannibal with buttons for eyes. You do this back to the nightmare thing again, isn't it, Luke? You do.
Yeah.
Do you fixate a little bit? Do you actually dream things and put them into comics, or is this? Do you just think of the worst possible scenario? Because that's pretty anxiety cheese dream, isn't it? You know, being stuck in an underpass. What do you think?
Well, Figments was one where, yeah, I think that kind of did start off the fascination with doing dream stories. And the newer book I kind of think of as the unofficial sequel.
Okay.
Not kind of a spiritual sequel, because it's got that similar idea of like the idea of being trapped in a fantasy world.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, Figments is supposed to be like reliving the worst thing that ever happened to you over and over again, but then figuring out that you can actually use that to conquer the experience. And again, it's another PTSD sort of thing where it's a girl who's had something terrible happen to her, and then she's trying to I don't know, I guess it's another violent thing, isn't it? Trying to
overcome it, deal with it, yeah.
And it rounds it up. There's I'm going to say there's a Freudian quality to it, because the harder core it gets, the more violent it gets, the bigger her gun gets. There's a phallic quality to that gun, Luke. Do you think?
Well, there's one bit that's blatantly phallic, because in the original script, it was actually a creature with a giant erection.
Right. Okay.
But I changed it to he sticks his tongue out and a kind of like alien-like second mouth thing, sort of tentacle thing comes out, and I thought, well, that's probably as close as I'm going to get to the idea of a penis in this story. Have something that looks kind of phallic coming out of his mouth.
And in the nicest possible way, she pulls it off.
Do you change that for kind of artistic reasons or commercial reasons? Would you say you wouldn't go with that?
I chicken out. It happens quite a lot where I get to the point where I'm going to draw something. I don't want to draw that. That's horrible. I don't think I want to do that. Yeah, it's the kind of thing that when you write in a script, and especially if you're using real people as your models, you do sort of start to see the characters more as people.
Okay.
So with that one especially, the original script was very different. But then when I got a model playing the character, I suddenly became quite fiercely protective of her, and it completely changed my attitude, and I ended up rewriting big chunks of it.
Okay. That's interesting. Especially, I suppose the other end of that is you have to show her it at some point as well, do you?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Have you ever? And of course, the other question for that is, do you ever use your wife in these roles?
Early on, yes. When I was doing A Glimpse of Hell for Murky Depths magazine, Terry Martin's magazine.
Right.
She was the model for the main character for that one.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I watched the interview you did on Icecast with your model on that, the lady who was Hollow Girl for a while, I'm guessing.
No, she was the model for Alone Not Lonely.
Oh, okay. Which we're going to move on to in a second. Yeah. Cool. So Alone Not Lonely is. I heard you say it's you want it to sound a little bit pretentious, and it comes from people who say, "Look, I'm alone, but I'm fine." It's like that. It's I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. Was that the idea?
Yeah, it's sort of written as one word with just capital letters to show where the different words kick in. So it's Alone Not Lonely. So it's sort of blurted out phrase. But yeah, because it's about a character who is alone but happy. kind of an introverted character. So I think of it as a survival horror for introverts with a little bit of Lovecraft thrown in.
Right. Okay.
I'm getting that when I've got I'm home on my own nowadays. Like loving the peace and quiet and the just me just working. There's no noise.
Does a huge penis monster turn up?
Only for 5 minutes. Sorry.
So, did you want to run us through? So you've got this friend. I'm sorry, I forget the lady's name, but
that's Ellie.
Ellie, yeah, and Ellie basically sort of was your model for Alone Not Lonely. So how did that work out? Did you develop a script and talk to her about it, or did she just volunteer, or how did you come to know her?
She's one of my students.
Oh right, okay.
And she's actually cool. She's actually an actor as well. So we did a lot of stuff where we were reading plays together during lockdown, and when the schools were open, we were doing like drama clubs and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, she's an actor anyway, and she did this little sci-fi short, which I think you can find it on YouTube. It's called Alternate, something like that. Okay. And she starred in that, and I'd already got this idea for a post-apocalyptic thing, but Alone Not Lonely is nothing like the original idea, which was called The Rapture, and it was about a character called the Atheist who didn't believe in angels and demons, but now guess what? You're surrounded by angels and demons. And it was set in a city, and there were all these different things, like someone could be possessed by a demon, and they would be called the Cursed, or you could be possessed by an angel, and that would be called the Blessed. And then I just threw the whole lot in the bin and did something completely different, where I moved it out into the countryside, so it wasn't, because I'm bored with apocalypses in cities.
Right.
And I made the monsters a bit more Lovecraftian. So the idea is it's all kind of symbolic of our distrust of people. So the character just doesn't trust people. And the weird thing was, I was working on this book during lockdown, and it suddenly occurred to me, I've written a book about coronavirus without knowing it, because it is this idea that you are only safe if you stay away from people. So it is a book about self-imposed isolation, and everyone she meets can either potentially physically transform into a monster. So it's that kind of thing of taking the metaphor of the idea that everyone is potentially a monster inside, but in this case you can see it comes out, and you can see them actually physically transform into monsters. And then you've got the other ones who are the angel characters, and they stand around with their eyes closed in a very J-horror sort of way, but when they open their eyes, sort of jets of white flame comes out of the eyes, and it's supposed to be like symbolic of the eyes of judgment that burn you. So okay. It's another one like Figment, really, where it's that kind of, it's very symbolic, and you get the impression that all of the symbolism is coming from her somehow, but she's creating this world.
Well, we do see like elements of the kind of not trusting people while the pandemic was going on, because you had people like doing the anti-mask stuff, or saying, this is a hoax, or you go down the supermarket and everything would be cleared out, and it's like, well, what about the older people, or people who can't get down the shop? And it's like, well,
we had
it's too bad.
People spat on and stuff, didn't we, in the early days?
Yeah. I remember being outside the Sainsbury's near us, near the start, and we had to queue up to get in like you had to. And the security guard was talking to one of the other people, and he said he's worked in some rough clubs, and he says it's never been anything like he's had to deal with on the door to Sainsbury's. Like he was just like, bloody hell, it's got that bad. But when you kind of think like dealing with a couple of drunkards who want to get in, to the point where people are concerned about eating, there wasn't really any concern, but that's what was going through their mind. You can see why they gave him a bit more kind of fight, as it were. Does that make sense?
I remember all of that. And what was really strange is now we've got all this stuff about vaccines, which means that all of that toilet paper that people are buying didn't cure the virus. and that's really weird. Why else would you buy so much toilet paper?
How is it where you are, dude? Because you're in, did you say Slovakia? I can't remember.
This was the country that were handling it really well at the beginning, and now are probably one of the worst affected in the whole of Europe.
Are you likely to get a vaccine? Are you on Sputnik or AstraZeneca, or what you on?
They've got a bit of a mixture of everything, but I don't know if you've been reading the news, but in Europe, they're having their doubts about AstraZeneca.
Turning their backs on it, aren't they, for some unknown reason? Yeah.
But even I think that's been completely debunked. That whole
a number of times, even today. Probably by the time this comes out next Monday, it'll have been completely debunked. I'm guessing.
I think it was like the amount of doses they've done is like in the millions, and the amount of blood clots they've had is under like 50. Which, if something worked a couple of million times and didn't work 50 times, you would go with that, wouldn't you?
I saw a joke online today. Says France disowns the AstraZeneca vaccination after man gets run over by car. Yeah.
Crazy times.
We laugh, but he had the vaccine first, and then the car hit him. How could you not see a correlation?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The one through line I see through your work, Luke, is female protagonists. Is that a real? Because I mean, Hollow Girl, Figments, Alone Not Lonely. Why female central characters? Any particular reason?
Well, I talked about this on Facebook once, and I got shouted down a little bit. But I feel
that's strange for Facebook.
Weird. But I feel like if you use female protagonists, there is still. It doesn't matter how tough you make them. You've still got that element of vulnerability. They're still more interesting characters because you fear for them. You're more worried about them as protagonists.
Interesting.
Whereas with guys, especially in comic books, guys always look like they're built out of bricks. And when a guy is beaten down in a comic, you're like, I don't really believe it. It'd be all right. But when you've got a female character and you've got these tough guys fighting her and they're twice her size, it looks cool. It just looks cool.
You don't usually see too much of like... Maybe more back in the day, but not so much now. Even in films, like kind of female protagonists getting an absolute savage beatdown. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but like they sort of generally shy away from it. And if one of them's getting a hammer in it, usually be like a slight trickle of blood from the corner of the lip, which they can kind of wipe away.
Yeah.
But in Hollow Girl, especially, she gets absolutely like dinged around, doesn't she? She's shot multiple times, whacked. It's good to see that. Not to see that came out wrong. I don't see me as good to see it get beaten up.
It's realistic to see it. You mean?
Yeah.
The other bit, Luke, is the use of pseudo-religious stuff. Is that used? There's an element of that in a lot of your work, isn't there? There's hell and heaven. Is that something?
Yeah, I blame Garth Ennis.
Right. Okay. You're not. Are you a religious man yourself, or?
Not really. No, I would say I'm agnostic.
Okay.
But I would say I'm super agnostic in that I don't know if God exists and I don't care.
Right. Okay.
It doesn't make a difference. If you treat people well, it shouldn't make a difference whether God exists or not. Just be decent.
Yeah.
But my wife is Catholic, so we do go to church, and we love churches and stuff like that. Just purely from the point of view of
beautiful places, man. Yeah. I mean, I'm an atheist now and a strong one, but I grew up as a Catholic schoolboy, and a Catholic altar boy, and there are some spectacular buildings built by that bloody church. They've done a lot of wrong, but they built some great buildings, didn't they?
Oh God, yeah. Aren't they supposed to double up as like defensive, like so? If there was ever needed to, you could go in there as a place of like defense, because they're obviously great big stone buildings with.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure that was the case. Maybe I'm completely and utterly wrong.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, I've got one of the cats playing with something on the ground here. You hear that noise?
Do you find that's a good sandpit to play in, though, Luke? Do you think that's something you enjoy playing with, that demon angel thing? I know you said you threw away the idea, but will you bring that back as well, or?
Well, Alone Not Lonely still has aspects of that, but they're used symbolically more than anything. It's more to show like the good and bad side of us, like the demon on one shoulder and the angel on the other, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still interested in it from the point of view. These days, it's more like the people that consider themselves Christian but treat people like garbage. That kind of thing. It fascinates me. Now I wonder, why are you a Christian then? If you don't actually believe in any of the things that, like when we talk about Christian behaviour, we're talking about being charitable, being decent, treating people right. But there's a lot of people that claim to be Christians that don't do that, and I find that quite interesting. It's not so much the theology now as the psychology that I find interesting.
Yeah.
Because then it just becomes, I'm a Christian because I'm one of God's chosen people and I'm therefore better than you. That's what it seems to be now.
Right.
For a lot of people.
Yeah, it's the old... some people are Christians for a reason, aren't they? Because they're probably quite fucking terrible in their other parts of their lives, you know. Yeah. As a Catholic schoolboy, you could always go and admit to Father Anthony that you'd got in a fight and you were forgiven. That was fine. Yeah.
I would always think of you as Father Anthony.
Thank you. Yeah.
The risk of sound of blasphemy, always the right religion always seems to be the one that we're brought up with and was prevalent in your area.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. I was trying to think, like, there's a multitude of comics that kind of is critical of religion, and a lot of them like quite well renowned and considered good reads, but not so much on the other side. Would you say that's true? I mean, for me, the only kind of religious comics that really stick out in my mind is the black and white ones that used to give away the tiny little things that were really kind of harsh and judgmental. Do you remember seeing those comics? I think there's a website where someone
I saw them. No.
To.
Oh, it's Chick something. I can't remember.
Yeah,
what
that's the one.
Chick something. Like a Chick pamphlet or something like that. I'm sure someone will.
Yeah, someone pipe up. There's a site with all. And basically, they're kind of like, it tells like a story of like Joe Bloggs, and he does something, and then it starts quoting Bible verse and scripture and how this is wrong, and all these lives starts going wrong, and there's different scenarios. But they were really like laying it on thick.
All right.
Yeah.
Jimmy masturbated, so both his hands fell off, his eyes fell out, and
it was a great fear of mine.
All his Christian friends laughed at him.
Great curiosity.
Every day, I fear that. It's like masturbating makes you blind. I actually genuinely thought that was real until last year.
Only if it goes off in your eye, otherwise you're fine.
Yeah, Wayne, you've gone in my eye. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's. I mean, it's a rich ground to work in fiction, isn't it? You know, everything from Nemesis the Warlock to Preacher to we reviewed a book a couple of weeks ago called Altered Boys. You know, which is sort of taking revenge on priests in a sort of Punisher style way. But yeah, there's a rich vein to be tapped there, isn't there? There's such a mythology that's built up around it that we can see. You know, Hellblazer and all this sort of thing. It does tend to be Christianity, doesn't it? In the West, is the one that's sort of used or mined, I suppose.
I guess they couldn't do the second big one because they get killed.
Yeah, be a drama.
Yeah, it's a dicey area, isn't
it?
Yeah. We mean Scientology. Yeah, exactly.
I live in East Grinstead.
Oh yeah,
this is like Scientology hotbed. There's the headquarters down the road. Like apparently half the shops on the high street are owned by Scientology.
Do you think
that's where like
Tom Cruise shop there?
When Tom Cruise comes over to the UK, that's where he stays at the Scientology compound.
My God.
Yeah, there's a great podcast that came out about East Grinstead, all these weird cults in the area and religions that sprouted up over the 60s and 70s, and I think Scientology heard about it and then like said, right, this is where we're going to be in the UK, and that's where they.
Because Neil Gaiman was brought up as a Scientologist, wasn't he?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't think he liked talking about it, but he was. Yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting.
I don't think they like talking about it either.
No, I got recruited. Someone tried to recruit me. Do you remember? To the MCM, some bloke came over and started talking to me about the stall and everything. And can't remember. I was with one of the ladies from No Brown. She said, "What are you doing, Taz? I'm talking to this bloke." And suddenly it just twigged when he was talking about who's the founder? What's his name again?
L. Ron Hubbard.
He started talking about L. Ron Hubbard in the present tense, and I went, "Hang on a minute, isn't he dead?" And he went, "No, he's just pure energy." And I went, "Are you a Scientologist?" And he gave me this thumb drive with Invasion Earth on it, whatever it was called. And he says he said 36,000 sound effects on here. I said, I can't even. How do you do 36 different sound effects? That's impossible. And he says, have a listen. But I've never dared to put it in my computer because I think it will find out all the porn I've been looking at and send it straight to Scientology HQ.
Spyware.
Yeah.
I've read that book. Years ago.
Me too.
I didn't
it's boring,
realise
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I was connected to Scientology in any way.
Yeah, what was that other one? Invasion Earth, wasn't it? Was the other one? Is that right?
Yeah,
Battlefield Earth.
Battlefield Earth. That's right. Yeah, they reckon that
There's
they
also
went out.
a shite movie with
John Travolta.
That's
right.
it.
Yeah,
And that Pepper guy out of Saving Private Ryan, the sniper bloke. Barry
right.
Pepper was his name. The actor. I don't think he's really done much.
Because I watched that a couple of years ago. In fact, I watched it after I met the bloke at MCM. I thought, I'm going to watch this because I had it on DVD or something. And it's actually designed to be one of two films, isn't it? I think it's meant to have a sequel. Kind of ends at a point where there's going to be a sequel. Because it was never made because it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that's a dream, isn't it? You write yourself a vaguely terrible sci-fi novel and get a religion out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we all
exactly. Yeah.
But isn't he quoted him saying like, "Oh, the best way to make money would be to start a religion," and then he did. And then,
I went to the Scientology Centre in LA. Is a big old I think it's like the Celebrity Centre or something. It's called. And opposite is a diner, and I got taken there by some pals, and it was full of people who were we were sitting there and they were going, "Oh, she's a writer on Saturday Night Live, and he does this," and it was full of like actors and stuff. Who obviously it was obviously the place to go to meet people. This diner.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Right over the road from the Scientology place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Is there any? Let's Google Scientology comics. Let's see what comes up.
Yeah. Anyway, back to Luke. Sorry, mate. I've got you on to talk about your
No,
comics.
that's interesting. That's interesting. I didn't realise that there was a Scientology base actually in England.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a great big compound.
there used to be one in Oxford Street or Tottenham Court Road as well, didn't there? I think I got doorstepped by someone walking along to go to the Food and Planet, and some bloke gave me a copy of Dianetics. I've got it here somewhere. I never read it.
Yeah, it was used to be on that crossroads where is it near Tottenham Court Road and Shaftesbury Avenue at the top there?
What, Bond Street?
Used to turn
there?
right to go
I know
down.
what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, you used to turn right to go down towards Forbidden Planet, and it was on the road just off of that crossroad, I think. I remember them giving out books and stuff. And
That's right. That's what I got. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to give him a book. That's pretty cool.
Dynamics.
Yeah. Look.
When we used to work in Waterstones, I think they might have sold them in there. No, maybe they didn't. I think it might be thinking of the bloody David Icke books, which are absolute pish. Are we just like making enemies of all the world's religions?
yeah.
On this episode?
Who else we better picked on?
Who's next?
Fucking Buddha. I hate him. There we go. There's another one. David Icke's he's an anti-vaxxer, isn't he, David Icke? He's one of that firm.
Okay.
Getting back on subject. Yeah.
As if there wasn't enough reasons to dislike him.
Yeah. So you've done not because we've only really talked about your creator-owned stuff, but you have done artists for hire, haven't you? Like we talked about Good Cop, Bad Cop. You did that with Jim Alexander and Jim Campbell. Is that right? Was that?
I think he did lettering. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I did a few things with Jim Alexander actually. So I did Good Cop, Bad Cop. I did a one-off called The Samurai, which was very 2000 AD style.
Right.
But I think my artwork was pretty bad on it, to be honest.
Oh, no.
I never seem to have the same passion as a gun for hire. I don't know why that is, but I can't get into it as much.
Jim was writing the X-Men and stuff, isn't he? People sort of forget how important he's been in comics. He wrote for Marvel for quite a few years, didn't he? Yeah.
He's done stuff for 2000 AD, the magazine, Marvel, DC, bit of everything.
Yeah. Have you got anything else that you've done recently that we might not have heard of, or you got anything coming up from as a gun for hire, or?
Yeah, I did. There's a indie comic called Burlap, published through Covenant Comics, and it's right up our street. You know, it's like guy with sackcloth mask and 2 pistols shooting bad guys. Another guy with a tragic past. It's perfect. It's perfect for me. And I just sort of drew a couple of pictures of the character and gave it to the guy who was the writer, and he said, "Oh, do you want to actually draw a book?"
Okay.
And I was like, "Oh, yes. Well, that wasn't my plan at all when I sent you these pictures." He offered me a one-shot. So they've done these 3 spin-offs from the mini-series that are going to be called the Burlap 90s. Wait, there's too many ends. 90s Nightmare, I think it's called. And they're just 3 stories set in his past. And I did one where it was about bad guys who live in a trailer park. and there's chainsaws, and there's scantily clad ladies, and there's lots of guns. But the thing
because Dan lives in Kent, and it's a bit like there.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that's Kent, isn't it for you?
Yeah. I was going to say, when being like you were saying you're more interested in the kind of creative aspect of it, working for someone else, does that kind of free it up from you? Because then you just think, right, I don't have to worry too much about the story. I'm making the art. I'm on the art duties. I do the art. I get the paid, and then I'm on to the next project. Does that work well for you?
Not really, because I like to have the control to be able to change things. Like,
Gotcha.
oh, that's not working, I'll do something else. So I need a writer who I can actually collaborate with quite closely and say to him, can I do this? And luckily, Jesse Bauer, his name is, who wrote it, he was exactly like that. And he even rewrote bits of it when he knew I was going to draw it.
Okay.
So it's kind of got an exploitation aspect. There's the two girls, and they're tied up, and they're going to be tortured by this dude. But then our hero, anti-hero, leaps in through the skylight and tears a guy's throat out. And basically, the girls are very passive. They're just damsels to be distressed and then saved. But when he knew I was doing it, he was like, "Oh, this guy, he does Hollow Girl. Okay." So he rewrote the ending so that one of the girls takes up the main character's guns and then shoots some of the bad guys herself. I thought, oh, that's cool. I like that I've inspired him to kind of make the female characters less passive in the story.
There's something decidedly looks better of a girl firing two guns at once than a man, in my eyes. Do you know what I mean? I think it just looks cooler, doesn't it, somehow? I don't know.
Unless it's Chow Yun-Fat.
Yes, obviously. That's true. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he can make having a shit look cool.
Yeah.
That guy is fucking...
I don't want to test that, but sure.
No, I don't want to test that, but I'm fairly certain, quietly confident.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us.
That was really good, man. Yeah, that was good. Long time coming as well. We've been following your career because you've got books from Comic House as well, haven't you? So.
Figment, and I think Marcosia have chucked some of the Hollow Girl stuff on there as well.
Yeah, I think there's 4 volumes of Hollow Girl on there, so that's awesome. So if you want to read Hollow Girl, you can get it on Comic House, or alternatively, where else can they get copies?
Marcosia.com is a good place to go because they'll have like big lists of the different places where you can download it or buy physical copies. Drive-Through Comics definitely has it. Comixology has Hollow Girl on there as well. And I think Alone Not Lonely. If it's not out on the digital platforms yet, then it will be coming soon.
Okay, I'll take it. Yeah, so it all goes. Marcosia stick all their stuff on Comixology. They stick some of their stuff on Comic House. Yeah, that's good. I've bought the odd thing through Drive-Through Comics, but it does keep appearing in my feed. How is that as a revenue stream? Is it good or?
Not really. It's just an easy way. It's just an easy place to go to upload your books if you're someone who's not very sure about how to self-publish. It's kind of easy to use, I guess.
Okay, does it automatically send the digital copy out? Does it in that case or?
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
good. Yeah, that's good to know. Rather than me trying to figure out how to send someone a Dropbox link for about 4 hours at midnight. I know, yeah.
But that Gumroad thing does that really easy as well.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's so simple.
Yeah.
But nice one. Brilliant. Awesome. Thanks for popping on, Luke, and we'll watch your career with interest.
Thanks, man.
So, thanks very much, guys. Yeah. Absolute pleasure. Thanks,
guy.
Take it easy.
Yeah, man. That was good. There we go. Good.
Yeah, nice one.
Yeah, excellent.
Nice one, Luke.
We've
he's like I said, he's been around for a little while. Luke on the scene.
Yeah,
doing his thing.
Consistently putting work out, isn't he? Yeah, good
stuff.
Yeah,
he's been around for just consistently putting work out.
I think Hollow Girl's up to like 6 volumes, something like that. I'm going to say. Yeah, that's good. It's good for a small press book, that, isn't it? Yeah.
God, yeah, definitely.
Good. So we've got a plan for one extra thing we're going to do. So knowing. I don't know if anyone's heard this, but Dan's a big fan of Invincible.
Yes, I only mention it once or twice per episode.
And not that we want to talk about TV, but we're going to come at an angle which will hopefully talk about the comics a bit more. But we're going to talk about Invincible, and we saw the opportunity of it becoming a cartoon on Prime next week, I think, as we record. Is that right?
I think it comes out on the Friday when we record. So this one comes out on the 22nd, and it's on Amazon on 26th, the Friday.
Right. Okay. So on Prime on the 26th, and
Yeah.
I've read the first 11 trades, but you've read through to the end, haven't you?
Yes.
I know you had it on a pull list.
I started in trades, and then I went on to issues when I was like, I can't wait.
Yeah.
I got to. I came late, by the way. I was very late into, not very late, but I was. So it was halfway through the run before I got on. I was like in the 90s. I think I started getting it.
Yeah, because it was 144 issues in all, 25 trades. That's good. That is good.
Yeah, it's great.
Written by Robert Kirkman. Volume 1 to 2 is by Corey Walker, and Volume 3 onwards is by Ryan Otley.
Corey does drop in later on to do some bits and bobs. There's a couple of issues where Ryan wasn't available or Corey took over for whatever reason.
Right.
But for the bulk of it, it's Corey, then Ryan Otley.
Cool. Oh, okay. Because I know that Corey and Kirkman worked on Super Patriot together, and then they decided to do this. They enjoyed working together. I think Corey slept on the floor of this. I watched an interview today, and Corey was saying he slept on the floor of the studio for like the first 5 months of the book or something. He would literally unroll a mat. And I think that was where he was living.
Okay.
And right at the start of it, he'd sort of sleep in the studio, which is
That's
pretty
a hell
cool.
of an existence.
No, yeah. The central character was almost called Kid Cosmic or Bulletproof. Now, Bulletproof's a character that turns up later. But we'll talk a bit more about it. But the main question I wanted to ask you, D, is being a fan
I was going to say,
go on, mate.
If you're going to watch the TV show and you don't want it spoiled, mate, you might want to skip this section because we're going to be getting into it, as it were.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
You should have an idea of what happens in the comic because we've talked about it a bit already on the show. But this company, I don't know who they are making a cartoon of one of your favourite comics, Dan. What do you think they need to do to make it invincible rather than just a generic superhero comic? What things does Kirkman, Otley, and Walker do that they need to replicate?
The action, first off, moving aside all the kind of story elements and story beats, is I want to see it kind of jacked up to a 20, 25, 30, you know what I mean? Rather than what does concern me. I'm not like chomping at the bit to watch the animation, but if you've seen stuff like the One Punch Man anime where the action in that is just absolutely fucking nuts, I'd love to see like a style like that used. I think it's going to be a bit more reserved, but certainly like the later part of the issues with Otley doing it, the action is so kinetic and brutal. I hope they do that justice. It's strange because I've started a read through. I was inspired by Andy Cliff to go back to Volume 1, and I'm slowly working my way through all the Ultimate Collection. And I've done the first book over the past couple of days. And a lot of what makes the series stand out for me is not there in those first couple of issues.
Right, yeah, okay.
It's absent. The kind of script, the ideas, it's yet to find its feet. And I remember buying the trade for someone saying, look, this fucking comic is awesome. And that was when I was like, it's coming up to 80, 90. And I said, stick with it, it's really good. And they didn't progress past the first trade. And to be honest, I can't really blame them because it doesn't really find its feet till a little bit further into it. So
do you think that's Kirkman pulling a Kirkman trick? Because Kirkman is an expert at the sudden shock. But the sudden shock only works if you're invested in the characters. So he spent 10 issues, 12 issues getting people into that, because it's very much a soap opera, isn't it? It's
definitely, yeah,
family soap opera, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean the big reveal, spoilers, is the fact that Omni Man, which is like the Superman character, and Mark is his son, Invincible, is a bad guy.
Yeah,
he tells him a story earlier on, like about his origin, how he was sent to Earth as like a protector, but it's actually the opposite. He's sent to conquer it, but essentially he falls in love with a native, Mark's mum, and decides not to. But then later on in the story, he has a bit of a change of heart, and there's a superhero team that are essentially like the Justice League, and they all get wiped out.
Yeah,
and there's like someone trying to work out who's killed all these heroes, and it ends up with Mark confronting his dad like over what he's done. And I won't spoil what happens in the fight, but it's kind of you don't see it coming. Literally, the whole, I think they're called the Guardians of the Globe.
That's right.
And they're just murdered in a space of 3 pages, just like an absolute bloodbath.
Because that's what Kirkman does. Is he cleverly recreates a kind of DC atmosphere, but he does it avoiding the cliche. So we've got the Justice League, we've got a Teen Titans kind of group, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've got him as ostensibly Spider-Man. Really,
yeah.
He has that personality, doesn't he? Nothing ever.
Yeah.
Relationships don't go right. He overreacts at things. He underreacts at things. But he does it in a way. Kirkman does it in a way that you think it's going one way, and he twists your perceptions a bit, doesn't he? I think
he does like these setups of thinking, right, I know where this is going, and then it twists. It plays those sort of preconceived notions where you think this is how superhero stories go.
Yeah, and
then it changes. There's one great bit which kind of, there's so many bits that caught me off guard, but later on in the series, Invincible's battling this dinosaur. I think it's the dinosaur. I can't remember the character's name
right
now, but he's kind of like a big red dinosaur, looks really horrible, violent, and he's doing all these horrible acts, and Invincible's trying to stop him. And there's one point where he transforms like Vegas, like atomizes it, I think, and makes it into like a mirror. And he says, like, with this, we can like power the Earth. There'd be no more carbon footprint. We can do it. And even though like there's been a titanic loss of life, the offset is that they've got all this clean, free energy now for the rest of the world.
Right.
And rather than sort of thinking this is fucking monstrous, he starts coming around to the idea of you've got to sacrifice a little for the greater good, as it were. And there's a shift in the hero that kind of I didn't see coming, because you expect to be, oh, good is good, wrong is wrong. But he starts to think of like the bigger picture, and he starts like trying to help this dinosaur guy to better mankind and humanity, but by taking radical steps that would step outside what you think would be good, essentially becoming a bad guy in effect. And a lot of the characters do change as they're kind of, there's a lot of B stories and B plots going on, but you'll think a character is one way, and then they'll change. Like the robot character flips several times from being a good guy to a bad guy, and then back to a good guy.
Yeah, he does. I find him interesting. So,
very interesting.
Robot Rex, he gets called. He does it a couple of times. Yeah, he's one of my favourite characters in it, actually, because he starts out as a sort of Reed Richards-esque character, doesn't he? Yeah. And then it goes fucking dark at one point, doesn't it? And he turns up in this sort of like mega armor, Doc Doom thing going on. Yeah, I like the fact that a Standing Wolfman turns up in it. I read that trade today. I think it's trade 11, and I really liked his series. I read the whole of that series. So that's kind of a spin-off, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a universe, isn't there, of a few comics? You got
Brit's
one.
Brit's part of it. Yeah. There was like I can't remember. There was an entire spin-off that basically had one issue, and it had like a character from the Invincible universe in it, and they did several issues of each character. There was a different character per issue.
Okay, right.
But yeah, there's definitely like a kind of a universe formed up about it. And one of the things that I really enjoy about the comic, it wasn't like I would say an issue of Spider-Man where like something happens and the next week it's back. It's like a sitcom kind of thing. You're back to the status quo.
Yeah.
Homer and Flanders are enemies again because it's the end of the enemy. Do you know what I mean? It's the end of the episode, so that's the way the status quo goes. In Invincible, it changes all the time.
Yeah.
He sets up a dynamic. Something happened in the story, and then there's a change, and then it keeps moving forward, keeps growing and building. All the characters change and evolve and learn, and it's for me, it's an absolute masterclass on how to do superhero comics. So you don't all the time now. You see people say, "Is this going to be the next Invincible?" Because it's so well written and so well done.
Yeah, I know. And there's been attempts at doing Spider-Man, haven't there? There's been attempts, and like Nova. And a few different, a few different characters, but this one really got it and ran with it to me. He became that character. He goes through some sort of relationship problems, he's boning his girlfriend while his mum he thinks his mum doesn't know, and all this sort of thing goes on. But yeah, no, I like that. And it's interesting that I saw an interview today with Kirkman where he said It was a story that he fully intended to start and then hand off to another writer, but he just couldn't let go of it. He kept coming up with new and new ideas, and all he could do was visualise what Otley would be doing with it, which is good. So, I mean, I'm not a big cartoon watcher. I might watch the first episode, man. I don't know whether I'll watch it.
Yeah, I don't know myself. I'm really kind of on the fence about it. If people give it rave reviews, I'll probably give it a go. But I'm really, for me, more over the past couple of years, I'm like, I've got the comic. That's what I want. I'm not interested in the film. I'm not interested in the cartoon. I'm not interested in the TV show.
Comics are better than films. That's what I say all the time.
Comic.
Yeah. But I hope it's a success, so people go and buy the trade paperbacks. That's
that'd be fantastic. Yeah. That'd be the kind of the good. I mean, I think essentially the Ultimate Collection. How many issues does it collect? I think that will be the first series.
Okay, right.
I think that would be the first series because it's pretty much the entirety of the kind of a good grounding for it. The only thing is it kind of ends with like Omni Man taking off and Invincible sort of left there to sort of like pick up the pieces of being like the next superhero of Earth because his dad's gone.
Right, okay.
So I think that might be a good place to kind of leave the first series.
Yeah.
Whether they do that or not.
Okay, maybe they'll follow the Hilda thing where, it does follow the comics kind of, but just adds extra bits.
I think that's what they'll do.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, the little bits and bobs, I mean, to not do the reveal of Omni Man being like the bad guy, as it were, I don't think they'll shy away from that because otherwise that's the sting in the first part of the story, isn't it? Without that, what is there? It's just a generic superhero story.
Yeah, agreed.
Relatively generic.
Yeah, totally, man. Yeah.
And I was saying to you that I don't think a lot of the characters actually find Kirkman hasn't found the voices for these characters in the first couple of issues. Rereading it over the past couple of days, like the characters don't sound like the characters they are when when you get later into it.
Yeah.
You read it and think that's the character speaking. And this time I was reading, I was like, these speech balloons could have come out of any one of them because they're so generic what they're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like I said, I think it was Kirkman finding his feet.
Yeah, I think you're right, man. Yeah, definitely.
Maybe you didn't know.
So next week is episode 300.
Bloody hell.
It's already come round, isn't it? Yeah. The plan is we'll be doing a live episode. We'll be doing it via Zoom. Watch out on the socials because the link will be coming up. If you go to @thischucklehead, Tom, who'll be running it for us, our buddy, he'll be able to put you in to send you to the place to get the link. And we're really looking forward to it. So we're going to see what comes of it. We're going to it'll be like might be a bit of a free for all to be fair. But
I'm not sure. We're going to see what happens.
Yeah.
We're going to bring back some classic features from
that's the plan.
The past 300 shows. Yeah.
So that's good. So that's first shout out. Next one, Good Friday just got Wicked, the new project from Tribute Press with me and Adam. We've got a new artist on board. We've got Daryl Thorpe on, and for £1.49 on Patreon a month, you get 5 comic pages a week plus extra material at the weekend. It's going to be launching on Good Friday. You may have seen the advert out there of George Mayhem, who's our character, getting crucified, and that's what's going to happen. So keep an eye out for that @Tribute Press on Twitter. I'll let you know when it's going to start. If you sign up on the day it drops, there'll be a week's worth of pages ready to view. So keep an eye out for that. Have you?
Excellent. Yeah, definitely. I want to be in on that on the ground floor.
Thank you, babes. You got any shouts?
No, one of the couple of Kickstarters I was keeping an eye on, they've been and gone. What was that one we were supposed to talk? Was it Gabby Scanlon's one?
I think that's made its money, hasn't it? I think
it's made its money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Brilliant.
Good stuff.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Good. Don't forget episode 299 next week is 300. Yes, I fucked that up. Good.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Vince was like, I knew he'd fuck that.
Yeah, we go. He'll be sitting there eating a pizza, won't he? Going, wankers.
Fuck it up.
Yeah.
As if it even recorded. That's what we're.
We're not going to re-record it. I've got to tell you. I'm not going back and do the intro again. Although I might do. Okay. Right. What recommends have you got? You haven't got a recommend this week. You've got a review, haven't you? You cheeky bugger.
Yes. Let me just fire up the iPad and get it on the go. I saw this cover a couple of weeks ago for the comic, and I read the concept behind it. And I thought this looks interesting.
Yeah.
And it did do me on the cover. I think we saw it. When we do our Wednesday pick out the covers on
I've not been feeling it the last few weeks.
No, me neither.
I know Vince managed to drag a few out, didn't he, the other day? But I've not. I tried.
So this one is Nottingham.
Oh, okay.
Written by David Hazan, art by Shane Connery Volk, colour by Luca Romana, lettered by Jolamet Gill, and is published by Mad Cave Studios. And the summary goes like this. In this twisted medieval noir, the sheriff of Nottingham hunts a serial killer with a penchant for tax collectors. The sheriff's investigation makes him the target of England's most nefarious power brokers. Say nothing of the merry men, terrorists lurking among the trees of Sherwood, led by an enigma only known as the Hood. And I thought that sounds quite nice.
Yeah.
If we're going to kind of like do a dark retelling of Robin Hood, but with the sheriff being the kind of the central character.
Yeah.
With the art, Shane's art, it's not straight on. There's a slight caricature element, and some of the figures are kind of grotesque and out of proportion. But similar to the artist who first did Accident Man.
Okay.
You know, some stuff was elongated and sinewy, and I've no problem with it.
Martin Eamons, is that right? Martin Eamons?
Yes, yeah, Martin Eamons. The colour in Luca Romano, I don't think it does it any favours. It's kind of more of a kind of a generic. It's a fine job. I just don't think it really suits with the story. It's the kind of cut and fade kind of stuff they do with comics, where it's just everything's kind of blended and everything's like full saturation. There's no kind of
right. Okay.
I wanted a bit more atmosphere in the colours. Do you know what I mean? There's no kind of blues or when it's like a night scene or it's just straight on colours. But it's a minor quibble. I enjoyed the story in as much, but it doesn't really go for it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? You've got this concept and you think, oh, it's going to be great because you see the merry men going around killing people and they're killing tax collectors, but they've got these kind of masks on, which is them like a hideous grinning face. And I thought, I wonder where they're going to go with this. But it kind of just becomes very quickly the standard Robin Hood fare of they're robbing from the rich, giving to the poor. And Robin Hood's just like just a generic, good-looking dude. Maid Marian, like at one point, she's talking to the sheriff of Nottingham, and she like grabs his crotch while she's talking to him. And I was just like, it's not pitched right.
Right.
The concept is fine, but it's just not. It's not done. It doesn't feel like a noir story.
Okay, I'm looking at it now, man. I actually like the cover. I think the cover's all right.
Yeah, covers what got me in.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, sort of bloody, smiling battle mask kind of thing.
It's one of the masks the merry men wear.
Right.
So,
but the interiors, and I've only looked at 3 pages so far, but all the men's faces seem very similar.
Yeah, it's just not quite right. It's a shame because I just feel like it just misses out. There's certain elements it just doesn't get quite right.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see more from the writer and artist, but yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I can't really recommend it.
Is it new out? Is it?
I think it popped up in new.
Oh
comics.
yeah, 3rd of March 2021. Yeah.
So it's a new title. Yeah. So I don't know. I just wanted to talk about. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I feel like if there was an editor that could kind of like set this straight and sort of say, well, no, you don't want to do that, and you do want to do that and stuff, it could have been.
I saw the cover to it, and I thought it was an Aftershock book. It's got something about it. You know, I know they do a sort of lot of medieval stuff, don't they? You know, twisted stuff, but yeah.
I think it could be the harsh red blood in the mask, and it's a real standout cover for me. Very striking. It done its job and got me in.
Yeah.
So as far as that, I can't really fault it. But
okay,
there we go. So,
good-o. I'm going to recommend
yourself, T?
Yeah, I'm going to recommend a book called The Lighthouse by Paco Roca. 63 pages, black, white, and blue. Published by NBM. We talked about them last week, and we talked about some of the biographical stuff they do. £7.99, so a little bit expensive for what it is on Comixology. I was got into Paco Roca by Tom Stewart when I did a podcast with him. We talked about one of his books on there. And he's a Spanish creator who is really, really interesting. He does all kinds of stuff. He doesn't particularly do superhero stuff, but he does. He did one called Wrinkles, which is about an old people's home, which fucking broke my heart. It's just beautiful character studies, I think, is what he does. The Lighthouse is Francesco is a young dude. He's a soldier in the Spanish Civil War on the losing side, and he's escaping. There's a really well done scene. So he's escaping through the woods, and he comes across a soldier, and they almost shoot each other till they discover they're on the same side. And the soldier says to him, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm trying to get out. I'm trying to get across the border to France." And he says, "Well, if you go to France, they'll put you in a refugee camp, or they'll try you, or you might just get put up and shot. If you get caught before then." And he's having this conversation. You're beginning to think, "Oh, fucking hell, how's this kid going to get out of it? He's just this young kid." And at which point the bloke he's talking to gets shot through the head and killed. And you realise suddenly it's on you. You realise the Spanish Civil War and how bloody and awful it was a place to live in at the time. And so he runs off and struggles his way through, and he finally comes across a lighthouse, and he reaches up and touches his forehead with the sleeve of his army coat, and he realises there's blood on it, and next thing you know, he passes out, and he has this sort of nightmare where branches are reaching out to get him, and he finds himself sort of drowning in the sea, and then suddenly he wakes up, and in the way of all good European places, next to him is some bread and some wine, which he eats and comes to, and he wanders out of he finds out he's in a lighthouse, and he wanders out of the shelter after eating and sort of recovering and coming to a bit, and he discovers this big fat dude with a moustache who's in the sea recovering a load of boxes and stuff that have been the waves have brought into the shore, and he's up to his hips in the sea, and he's dragging this stuff out, and he says, "Give me a hand." And it turns out this dude is the bloke who runs the lighthouse. That sort of classic, looks like an old fisherman kind of guy, and he's running the lighthouse, and they become friends, and he said, and he takes refuge in this lighthouse, and the two of them begin to get on, and they eat well, and they eat fish, and they drink wine together, and they laugh, and they begin to get to know each other, and you realise, we were talking about PTSD earlier, you realise this kid's got PTSD from the war, and he's found this sort of, it's almost like a dream-like place he's suddenly found himself in, and the bloke who runs the lighthouse keeps pointing out at sea and pointing to an island. He says sometimes you can see there's an island out there, and I want to go and live there. It's this incredible place, and he describes it in detail. There's trains there and locals, and it's just this lovely place to live, and there's no war. And they decide they're gonna. He's had this project where he's been making a boat, and they decide to start making this boat together. And he keeps saying to him, "What's happened with the lighthouse?" And he said, "Well, I keep it up, I keep it up to date, but there's no bulb. Because of the war, they can't afford to bring a bulb to stick it in the lighthouse, so I keep it ready in case a bulb arrives." And they begin to, it's almost dreamlike, almost like you wonder whether the kid's still in a coma. And so they start building this ship, and thinking that they're lucky enough at one point that a wheel turns up, and they build it out of bits that they find, flotsam and jetsam that appears on the beach, and the kid goes in, and he's looking through his desk, and he discovers a letter from the government saying, "Leave the lighthouse. You're not employed here anymore. We don't need the lighthouse." And then he finds a thing about, well, the island is also fake, and he thinks this bloke's just been telling me this lie, and he's living this lie. And as they're having an argument, they get attacked by the troops, and they have to somehow escape. And I'll leave it there, but it's a really beautifully told book. It's absolutely full of charm. There's a real charm to it. These two men, very different, and they tell stories of their growing up and their childhoods and their jobs and what they've done in their lives to each other in the course of this book. Telmo is the older man. He's obsessed with Moby Dick, and he often quotes it to him. He often says stuff like, "The sea is a refuge for free men." He's got these quotes that he throws out at Francesco, and they become friends. They fall out, they become friends. It's one of those sort of things.
Gotcha.
But it's a beautifully told book, and Paco Roca tells stuff, and he's so full of emotion when he tells books. He's so full of character, and you really talking about Invincible building up character before they fall. There's no point in killing a character before you know them, is there, in fiction sometimes? And that you feel that you know these people, and there's a tragic element to them. The art is I'm trying to think who I would compare it to in UK and American comics, and the nearest I came to was a slightly more realistic version of Scott McCloud, maybe something like that.
Okay, fair enough.
Quite clean. He does that 2-colour thing. He doesn't overdraw, but occasionally you get a whole page full of waves and beautiful swirls and backgrounds and rain, and occasionally just really the page just explodes with detail, and then sometimes you go back to a sort of a brevity of line almost on the page. It's beautifully told and really good. There's another book. Keep an eye out for some of his books. There's one called Winter of the Cartoonist, which is really interesting from a Spanish comics historical point of view. I did a podcast with Tom about it, and it talks about I think it's the 50s or 60s. I can't remember quite which. I haven't got my notes in front of me, but there's basically an image revolution in Spain amongst these cartoonists. They all decide to go off and form their own company because they think they're going to make some more money. And it's a true story. And the people, and Paco actually got to interview a lot of these blokes. Some of them were slightly shystery. Some of them were just like crap businessmen. Some of them were lazy. And they went off and formed their own company, only to find that the main comic company had pulled their trousers down by going around and paying off all the places that would have sold their comic, so they didn't sell them. And they had to go back with their tail between their legs. It's really interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's another book called The House, which is about a family, a sort of extended family who gather after the father dies, and they're cleaning up and getting the house ready to sell, and they have their problems and they have their memories, and it's a really beautifully told book. That's out of Fantagraphics, that one, I think. And then the other one is Wrinkles, which is about a community in an old people's home, and utterly broke me at the end of it.
Really?
Yeah, just this dude, I'd never read any of his books before, but he's got 4 or 5 out there. I suspect there's probably more coming that are going to be translated. But he's huge in Europe. We have Fantagraphics, God bless them, got hold of him, and NBM got hold of this one. And
brilliant.
Yeah, it's really good stuff.
Another one of those fucking amazing creators that you just don't hear of because of geolocation or whatever, and not seeing their work.
Yeah. It's another easy one to recommend. I read it. It's 63 pages. It's not a long read. It's not overly complicated. There's whole tranches of it that aren't dialogued. They're just no words.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be.
Yeah. It's a really nice book. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, I'll have to check that out.
That's my one, mate.
Well, that sounds like my cup of tea.
Yeah. Good. Right. So what do we do now? Ring Vince.
We did it.
Sure. Did it go all right?
So that was another fantastic episode of the Awesome Comics Podcast. We've got episode 300 rolling up.
Yeah.
Anytime soon. Keep your ear to the ground for that, because there's we've got a lot planned. We've got to have our meeting of the Dons.
Yes.
In the next week or so, don't we?
Yep, it's true. Good.
The heads of the families come together to discuss the business.
Yeah, that's next week, isn't it? We're talking about it.
Yeah,
talking about plans.
It's next week.
Yeah. If you do Facebook, why not come and join Awesome Comics Chat? There's no shameless selling, just comics and just great comics talk and lots of advice and lots of art and stuff like that. You can post up what you're working on, what you're reading, but there's a drawing thread which you're about to launch. Is that right, Dan?
Yes, we're just waiting for the last couple of entries, ideas, and we're going to set up a poll. Once we get the poll up, whatever the results poll are, that's what we're going to be all drawing.
Good.
So stick it on there. Stick your ideas in there.
Good. Why not go and spread the love? You can go and find us at Apple Podcasts. Please subscribe and leave a review, as it lifts us in the ratings and more people will pay attention to the episode. I think that's how it works. I don't know. You can find us on Podbean, Amazon Music, Podnose, Podknife, Spotify, and are we on any other podcast networks, Dan?
Pod bollocks.
Are also on Pod We Miss Vince.
Yes, Vince. It's such a different experience where one of us isn't here.
It's weird, isn't it? Yeah.
It's not quite right when. Yeah. Not wrong or bad, just not right.
Yeah, it's like bad sex. It's good, but
Yeah, it's still sex, but
that's what counts.
Yeah.
Where can people find you online, Dan?
They can find me on Twitter at Vanguard Comic, and you can read Vanguard at vanguardcomic.com.
Cool. And you can find me at neverironanything.com, which has got reviews and podcasts and links and all that sort of thing on there as well. And
I was listening to your Misty one today.
Right.
Misty book one.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got bent over on the fucking delivery charge, but
Oh, did you? Where'd you buy it off?
they had like a third off or something. That I can't remember the name of it, but Sarah pointed out, look, these guys are on sale for third off, and I got to the checkout and it's like £4 something for the delivery. I was like, fucking hell.
They fuck you at the drive-in.
I bought it
They
anyway.
fuck you at the counter. Yeah. Okay. Good.
But Misty is winging its way to me.
Good stuff, man. Yeah, I bought far too many comics. I received the first 4 issues of Doll Man this week. Very
Excellent.
exciting.
Yes. We've got to do a full moon episode.
We do, don't we? There's loads of comics out about them. And I've got
I bought,
Trances as a trade of that as well.
Ah, nice one.
Yeah.
Jack Death.
Yeah.
Trances. I bought the first book of Akira because I don't know where mine is, and I'm going to buy all. I think there's 7 volumes of Akira.
I remember
I don't think I've actually read all the way through to the end of
there's
it.
a big box set. Have you seen it's come out?
I saw it's someone selling it on eBay for 120
It's
quid.
like the size of a stool. You could sit on it.
It's fucking enormous, yeah.
Yeah.
You get hernia carrying that in the house.
My poor postman. Yeah.
But that's like a lot of investment. Like you think, oh, actually, I don't really like this. It's like, well, here's the rest of it then.
Good. So you can go out and buy your own comics, read your own comics, and let us know what you're reading. Hopefully, please do come along to 300. It's going to be a laugh. We've got a few surprises planned or about to plan, a few ideas floating about. And otherwise, what are we going to do, Dan?
You stay awesome. That's what we do.
I thought you were doing the outro.
That's the outro.
Right, good. Stay awesome. Fuck you all.
See you later.
See you later.